Garland is fantastic. Um, he is right. That is the way they do things. And I want to go in a little bit more on the story. So if you remember Donald Trump, God, man, Garland's so right on this. In the very beginning, with the negotiation with the Russians, Trump was like, if they don't make a deal, we're going to hit them with sanctions, the likes of which Joe Biden has never seen. But now Trump's position is, if you don't get a deal, we're just going to walk. In fact, I got the clip. We're going to walk. If we can't get a deal, if we don't, if Zelensky doesn't fall in line, we cannot just keep, right here. If there's no willingness for a deal, we're going to call it a day. That's what we're going to do. Right here. Listen to what he says here. I mean, this is markedly different than what Trump was saying prior. And it sounds like, honestly, it's more aimed at Zelensky than it is the Russians.
If for some reason one of the two parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully we won't have to do that. And Marco is right.
You're foolish. You're bad people. It's like, oh, you're hurting our feelings after 3 years of war. Oh, Trump hurt our feelings, so we're going to call it a day. Okay, that's markedly different. And again, who is that aimed at? It's Zelensky that needs the money. It's Zelensky that is your proxy. It is Ukraine where you've been picking shots and whatnot. It's not the Russians. They're moving forward. And just to make the point that much clearer, don't take my word for it, take Trump's word for it. In this case, when Donald Trump puts out a tweet when he's very angry at Zelensky, he says the quiet part out loud. At the very bottom of the statement, he points out, within 3 years, you're going to lose your country. Full stop. Which is true. Now, Marco Rubio, when he gave his statement, was more dishonest. And I would wager to you that part of the reason that Russia wants to, if they want to, continue the war is to make it definitively clear that you lost. Marco Rubio's statement, where he's like, this is basically a stalemate. Nothing is effectively taking place. Neither side can make progress, is nonsense. It's the nonsense that Europe has been telling themselves for the last 3 years. And I would wager to you that Russia wants to make brimmingly clear that you lost. You completely lost. The other point, when Trump was talking about the deal with the Russians, he was saying within a few days, we need to know now whether or not a deal could be made. Later on, it became weeks. We have a couple of weeks to see what happens. Okay, again, that's a change. You are continuously moving your lines. Nobody knows exactly what you're doing. And we're not even sure if you know what you're doing. So credibility with Trump is an issue right off the bat at a time where you need credibility to come up with a deal. There's another part to this, by the way. I, myself, have pointed out that the out that Donald Trump can use is based on the rhetoric that Europe has been using for the last several years. That rhetoric went something like, Vladimir Putin is trying to take all of Europe. And effectively, if he has to take all of Europe, by definition, he has to take all of Ukraine. So you can make a statement in the sense of, what are you getting out of this deal? What I'm getting out of this deal is I'm preventing Russia from taking all of Ukraine. And by limiting Russia to certain regions, I have saved, meaning that is your face-saving mechanism. You all have said that Putin is going to take all of all of Ukraine and all of Europe. Fair enough. I stopped him from taking all of Ukraine. That is my win. That is the thing that I got from Vladimir Putin. I got him to give up his want for all of Ukraine. You all said he was going to take it all. You said it for 3 years. He was going to take everything. Fair enough. I stopped him from doing so. My name is Donald Trump. Give it a Peace Prize. That's what he could use. And damn it, if that is not exact thing that he effectively just told reporters, I am not going to get any credit from that. But damn it, I'm going to take credit for it because I said it.
What concessions, Mr. President, and to your national security team, what concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
Stopping the war, stopping taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
See, right there. stopping the war and stopping him from taking the entirety of the country. A pretty big concession, meaning I got him to do that. I got Putin to stop taking all of Ukraine. Now, the reality of it is, it's a special military operation. The objective wasn't a war. The objective was we need to protect the Russian-speaking citizens in these various regions. And for that matter, we need to stop Ukraine from being part of NATO. That's what we want. That's our job. That's our objective. And we want to denazify Ukraine by shooting one Nazi in the face after the next, not to mention killing the military. That was the point. It wasn't to take all of Ukraine. So, but because of the rhetoric that was used by Europe and by the United States for so long under Biden and under those goofballs in Europe, he could use it. Joe Biden's war, if he needs to walk, if he gets a deal, I've stopped him from taking all of Ukraine. The logic kind of writes itself. All right. But on the Iran front, it's a bit different. Because on the Iran front, we're not talking about a situation where Trump has no cards, where he can't do anything. We've said for the longest time, he has no capability to do anything on the ground short of going to something like nuclear war, which all things being equal, he doesn't necessarily want to do. So he is limited in what he can do in Ukraine. Any deal that Donald Trump makes has to be beyond Ukraine. And even in the deal that was released, I believe was the Telegraph, $100 billion from Ukraine, business deals with Russia. That was the point of Kirillov coming here. That was the point of Witkoff going there. And even when Witkoff came back, the things that he was talking about mainly were business relationships. All right. This is different. This is different. Yes, he's lying about tariffs with China. Yes, he's pretending as if he's having some kind of conversations that take place. But that's different than Iran. Because what Donald Trump has effectively said on Iran, surrounded by a bunch of Zionists who are itching, chomping at the bit to attack Iran, is if you don't sign a deal and we can't get a deal, we're going to attack you. And using this kind of bullying as a way to get more and more concessions, effectively, give me your lunch money. And then the next day, give me $2, give me $3. It's that, right? When Witkoff initially went, and I played the clip before. I play it one more time because I'm going to make a self-contained clip. When Witkoff went the first time and Witkoff came back, he was saying something different. Now, this is the realists going to Iran and talking and coming back with this. And I know I played this clip before, but I'm playing it because it's a reference point of what was Witkoff's negotiations when he went, when he was the main proponent in these negotiations. What was he talking about?
This message of peace through strength, it resonates throughout the world. This is not a threat on my part now. It is just a simple fact. The president means what he says, which is they cannot have a bomb. The conversation with the Iranians will be much about two critical points. One, enrichment. As you mentioned, they do not need to enrich past 3.67%.
All right. They do not need to enrich past 3.67% or whatever number he wants to go with. Okay, that's very specific, right? You keep your centrifuges, you keep your capacity to enrich, but it needs to be limited. It's very specific. When you go to Iran, the foreign minister was saying something very similar right here. This is, he's speaking. But he's effectively saying something very similar. Enrichment is a red line. We're going to keep the capacity to do so. I should show this. We're going to keep the capacity to do so. All right. We're on the same page. As I pointed out, Iran also pointed out that certain groups were trying to manipulate the United States to maximize demands. Now, the reason you want to maximize demand is because, okay, well, if I can hit your red line and I can say, this is what we need in order to make this deal work. Okay, but you know that's a red line. And if you know that's a red line, and if that is a sticking point for you, then how can we come to a deal? It's that, right? Now, you have Trump escalating threats. We may have to bomb him. We may have to bomb him. Ron's nice people, but hey, we may have to bomb him. Meaning he has fixed himself in a military disposition against another country, full of Zionists all around him. And the question is, can he step back from that as a bluff? Can you do that? Now, yes, he could do this with all this other stuff he's lying about Russia and Iran and China. Fair enough. But he is not threatening military force against them. He is threatening military force against Iran, and he's surrounded by a bunch of Zionists as he does so, with Netanyahu chomping at the bit to attack Iran. I've told you I'm very dark on this. I've seen the thread going all through these presidencies. And yeah, a president can have his own mind and his own point of view of things and may not necessarily want to hold it back. That is a heavy cliff to step back from, especially with the people around you. Here's the other clip. So, as I pointed out, Witkoff backed away after he got attacked on this. Rubio seems to have taken the lead from Witkoff on this, who is a Zionist and a whack job. Hence the video where he effectively says, hey, Iran, they can, they can have nuclear power. We don't have any issue with that. What he's not saying is that they can't do it themselves, which is, again, a sticking point for Iran. We are not going to give up our centrifuges. Full stop. And if that's what you want, sad day for you. Now, this goes into the Guardian article with a ludicrous title, by the way. Iran rejects demand from the U.S. to rely on imported uranium. Well, that's because the United States escalated their demands. If in the very beginning, Witkoff was the lead and Witkoff was coming around saying, all right, 3.7, we can deal with that. And somewhere along the line, Trump gets pressured to, well, no enrichment. And now you see Rubio, not Witkoff, sitting in this picture. Okay, what does it mean? Does it mean that Rubio has taken the lead from Witkoff? Is that what it means? And if so, what are the political consequences of that? Especially if Rubio is doing negotiations. He is a Zionist. He may be okay with attacks on Iran, especially considering the people that are around him and the people in Congress who are egging this on. What does it mean? What does it mean? Now, that's a big deal. And it's a big deal because they're going into negotiations in Oman over the weekend. And up to this point, they've been able to have these negotiations where everybody comes out with smiles, shaking hands, no tables thrown over, nothing to that effect. Trump has put guardrails, supposedly, on the negotiations, so much so that Iran came out and said, hey, let's have a memorandum of understanding around this issue. Problem is that if indeed that is Rubio's final stance, meaning we're not budging from this, you must get rid of all of your reactors, then you've just hit a red line. Iran is not interested in giving it to a third-party country. And of course, they're not a monolith, so you may have elements in the government that may be willing to do that. The problem is that you're doing this under threat. And so the person who's threatening you may take it upon themselves to think, we can ask for more. If they're willing to give that, what else are they willing to give? This is the issue with the threat part. Now, there are going to be elements in Iran that are hardliners who are like, no. If we need a skirmish to make that work, then we need a skirmish to make that work. Meaning, if you need to attack us and we need to attack back in order to come to some kind of resolution as a demonstration of strength, then damn it, that's what we need to do. That is a potential, especially if they can't mend the gap on that, or if Donald Trump is bowing to Zionist, neocon pressure that has wanted to attack Iran for a very long time. From my point of view, there's been a thread going through knocking down one government after the next, after the next, after the next, with Iran being the last man standing. And as the last man standing, what is the U.S. going to do? What has the U.S. done in the previous administrations? Obama, Joe Biden, etc. They've gone after Syria. They've gone after Iraq. They've gone after Afghanistan. Sudan is a basket case. They completely destroyed Libya under Obama. And here you have Donald Trump, $100 million, Miriam Adelson, one Zionist after the next, one whack job after the next, with Netanyahu beating down his ear saying, hey, we need to attack Iran. with fueling jets and running missions, testing attacks on Iran. What does it mean? Can they mind the gap is the question. I know John was on yesterday saying, well, he thinks the negotiations have gone well. That's an escalation. That's an escalation. Now, Garland's right. For the most part, Trump has been inconsistent. I think my thing is, does that inconsistency go to military force on an issue like this when he's surrounded by the people who surround him? And when Witkoff, the realist, seems to be now taking a backseat to Rubio, the ardent Zionist. Rubio in that position is a bad omen. That is a bad omen. I'm not saying that Iran is going to get attacked. I'm not saying they can't mind the gap. I'm just saying if you take the realists off of the main thrust of the negotiations, and the realist was coming back with a plan that everybody could agree with, or at the very least Iran could agree with, and you've now come up with something that Iran has said is a red line. What does that mean? What does that mean? My biggest fear was that people are policy, and who you put into a particular position tells the policy that you're effectively running with. The fact that he had Witkoff going from place to place to place was a positive omen. He's a realist, right? He doesn't have these ideological things short of, I want to make as much money as I could possibly make. Look at what happens when the realist comes back. The realist gets attacked. And you pull him off that issue. Now, is it possible that Witkoff needs to go to Russia and that's why he's not going to Oman? Maybe. But either way you look at it, if indeed that's true, he put a realist on there for a reason, because he didn't trust his State Department, which was completely sidelined for many of these negotiations. Witkoff goes to Russia. Rubio, the person who Trump apparently didn't trust because he was sidelined, is now going to do negotiations in Oman. And even the pictures that are being shown are of Rubio, not Witkoff, in regards to these negotiations. The statement that is coming out from Rubio, not Witkoff anymore. Witkoff was on, Sean Hannity. Now Rubio is giving statements about what Iran must do. Bad omen. Bad omen. That doesn't mean that Trump can't get some kind of deal and then turn around and sell it like a win, kind of like the Ukraine thing. What are you going to get from Vladimir Putin? I'm going to get the fact that he's not going to take all of Ukraine. That is just a massive success. So Trump could get a deal conceivably with these threats being to try to compel behavior. And when the behavior can't necessarily be compelled, to step back, take a deal, and sell the deal. That's possible. Because again, personalities do get involved in this. I'm just pointing out, it is a very bad omen. The Rubio's the guy who's now going to do those negotiations. So we'll see. My concern is that the previous administrations had no issue destroying all of these other countries. For Iran's part, they're talking to China, they're talking to Russia, meaning they're in constant contact with allies about these negotiations to whatever it's worth. Saudi Arabia apparently made that trip over to Iran. Again, this is not the exact same isolated Iran that was there the first time around that Donald Trump was there. There may be pressure coming from Saudi Arabia saying, hey, it's not a good idea. Maybe. Who the hell knows what Saudi Arabia is thinking? I'm just pointing out there are people in Iran who believe that a skirmish is necessary as a demonstration of strength, at least some of the reporting. There are others who are like, we should take a deal. The Ayatollah is the one that's going to win out in regards to his thoughts and what he thinks. And if he already thinks you can't trust the United States, we shouldn't even be negotiating with the United States. We'll do so because we want to, seem open and willing to have these negotiations. But all things being equal, you can't trust them, nor should you give way. Then there will be skirmishes. It's that simple. It has to be. How does Trump back away? Yeah, you can lie about China. Okay, fair enough. You can lie about China all you want. You can lie about the time frame in regards to some kind of deal with Russia. Again, you can't do anything on the battlefield, so you can't really attack them. Fair enough. You pass what 20,000 sanctions or whatever. Those are different lies. Those are different lies. Hey, does this dress make me look fat? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It does not make you look fat. Have you cheated on me with Tiffany? No, I have not. And yes, you did cheat on me with Tiffany. Those are very different lies. That's my point that I'm making. Trump can make one, no issue. The second one is hard, especially after you've spent weeks saying you're going to hit the country if you can't make a deal. And you put bookends on the time frame to which you want to make that deal. Is there a way out? Is the question. Would Iran break the red line and allow a third country to effectively give them nuclear power where they're no longer sovereign and self-sufficient because the U.S. is threatening a unilateral attack? Or will they say, fuck it. If you want to hit us, do your best. You will be hit back. Just know it. In which case, a test of strength is necessary. Taking your sovereignty at the barrel of a gun or at the barrel of a missile. Buckle up. We'll see. No clue which. I do get the sense that I think John is right that many presidents told Israel no in regards to attacking Iran. But many presidents didn't have this level of whack jobs surrounding them. And that's the issue. People of policy. And the fact that you've stated it so strongly, that's a hard cliff to walk back, even for Donald Trump. I want to bring in my guest